Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print 3D channel. The January 2020 MakerBox has arrived and we're going to open it up, check out all the cool filaments inside and print out some stuff, and I'm going to share my results with you guys, so stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back and thank you for joining me here on the Print 3D channel. Like I was saying in the introduction, the January MakerBox has arrived for 2020. It's the first one of the year, and I'm really excited to see what kind of new filaments we're going to check out this time. As always, a huge shout out and thank you to MakerBox for sending this to the channel for us to test and review. We really appreciate it. As always, we were not compensated in any way. We get some little bits of filament to try out, and I usually use all of the filaments included. So now that we have that out of the way, let's check out what's inside. Now I believe this is my seventh MakerBox in the series of MakerBoxes that we've been doing since we started back, I guess it would be in June of last year. And now we are into 2020. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this MakerBox. So let's go ahead and open this up. As always, these filaments will be printed on the G-Max 1.5 XT Plus, which is the printer you can see behind me. Now, if you watched last month's unboxing, the December of 2019, which you can watch here, I did mention something about doing kind of a look back at the filaments we did not print, and that is still on schedule, and that's probably going to be something pretty spectacular. I just haven't figured out the logistics. So if there is a filament at the end of this video that we are unable to print or just was too difficult to print with, don't you worry, we're going to give it another try. It just won't be in this video. So let's see what they have inside here before we make any rash decisions about what we can or cannot print. As always, safety first. All right, so let's open this up. I think you guys can see that in the camera over there. Let's see what we got inside. It always cracks me up when the first thing you see is the ignore me, which is telling you get the most out of your MakerBox with the referral program, and a lot of people, I'm assuming, ignore it. So speaking of 2020, we have a 2020 magnet sticker from MakerBox, and that'll come in handy, and we'll be able to use that somewhere in the shop at some point, but that's pretty cool. We also have upgrade to Hemera. Oh, cool. Oh, discount code. So if you're a subscriber to the MakerBox subscription service, there's a discount code. I'm gonna put that over there. A E3D online sticker, so I guess you can guess where that was leading. And of course, this is the Pips Mountain. These guys make custom dice for tabletop gaming, and they have a really cool website. Go check it out. They are kind of a co-sponsor, I guess. Their stuff is in here in one way, shape, or form. So we do have some candy and sweet tart chews. Those are always yummy. I hope you guys can see that in the camera. That's over there. All right, so the first filament I'm looking at is GreenTEC Black from Extrude Ur. Now, I've printed with these guys' filament before, and it's some awesome filament, and it's so cool to see this is in the MakerBox, which means we might be seeing this on the shelves at US e-tailers really soon. This is their black, it's GreenTEC Black. The print settings on this are the hot end temperature is 180 to 230, the bed temperature is room to 90 C, speed 60 to 180 millimeters per second. Yes on cooling, other says none. GreenTEC is the extruder's bio-performance range and has been specifically developed for high performance applications. This material has a heat distortion temperature of 115 C and is optimized for a high tensile and flexural strength. It offers a high quality matte feel. Ooh, it's a matte. Sweet. Now again, I've used their filament before. It prints awesome. I never had a problem with it. So it's fun to print with this again, and we have some matte black. So here's the front of the package. I'm going to covering up the QR code so it doesn't trigger the camera, because everything I film is on an iPhone iDevice. So there's the back, and you can see, hopefully, it's got kind of a cool matte finish. So filament number one. Filament number two is some translucent PETG in pink with sparkles. Sweet, I like printing with the glitter filaments. They hide the mistakes really well. The hot end temperature on this is 205 to 245. Bed temperature is room to 90. The speed is 25 to 80 millimeters per second, and the cooling is none or low, and the other is none. So the info describes this particular kind of PETG. GreenGate exclusively extrudes filament from scrap plastics, no virgin found here. So they are using 100% recycled PETG to make their filaments. That's really cool. There's some more information on here. You can look in the description. There'll be links to all the different filament companies' websites where you can get all the information you want on each of these filaments. We're just going to talk about the print settings, and that's PETG translucent pink with sparkles. So let's go ahead and cover up that QR code so you guys can see the front. And again, this is from GreenTEC 3D, and it's manufactured in the USA from 100% recycled materials. And I can barely see the sprinkle or the sparkles, so we'll have to see it when it prints. And when we do our filament testing, which we're going to do, I was distracted by the name of this filament. The testing that we're going to do, the bend test, the clip test, and the diameter test. Wow, I'm super distracted by that. Okay, so this next filament is from Hello 3D, and it's called Firefly.
Well, my days are not taking you seriously. They're certainly coming to a middle.
And this is some PLA. Hot end temperature is 190 to 220 C. Bed temperature is room to 70 C. Speed not listed, and cooling is yes. It's an abrasive filament, so a hardened nozzle is advised, and a nozzle of 0.5 millimeter or more is advised. And this is actually a glow-in-the-dark filament with a larger phosphorescent particles. This gives the effect of being a glow-in-the-dark glitter. Well, that should be fun. So let me cover up the QR code. And you can see the front information. And I'll show you the back. But as always with glow filament, you really can't see anything. So there you go. Glow-in-the-dark filament, and it's called Firefly. Our next filament, ooh, there's a reason why it's so heavy. Interesting. Okay, so this is from Protopasta, our friends at Protopasta. There's some iron-filled metal composite PLA. Sweet. This is something I have never tried before, an actual filled metal PLA, or any kind of material that has actual metal. So it says hot end temperature is 190 to 210, bed temperature is room to 60, speed is not listed, cooling yes. Again, this is another abrasive filament. Obviously, it has metal in it, hardened nozzle advised, which, by the way, I do have on the G-Max 1.5 XT Plus over my left shoulder. And the information here says it's Protopasta's rustable magnetic iron metal PLA composite is actually ferromagnetic. It responds to magnets and behaves similar to pure iron. Encapsulated in plastic, the iron maintains a stable matte, cast metal finish as printed, but can be rusted when desired. Let's cover up the QR code, and you guys can see the front of this package. Again, this is from our friends at Protopasta. And check out the back. It's got a nice matte finish. It's very heavy, very, very, very heavy, and I can't wait to try this. We have 4 filaments. It looks like, let's see, yeah, they look like 3 PLA based and 1 PETG. So we may be picking up the heated bed and putting it on the G-Max. So anyway, that is our 4 filaments and the January 2020 MakerBox. So that is a nice selection. I'm really excited to print with these guys. So let's go over what we have again. We have the iron metal or iron-filled metal composite PLA from Protopasta. We have Firefly PLA that glows in the dark. We have some PETG translucent pink with sparkles from GreenTEC 3D. And of course we have some of that GreenTEC black from Extrude, and this is their matte black. So this will be really fun to print with. We did get a little bit of candy. Sorry, headphone users. There's your candy. Well, there's my candy. And a sticker from E3D. And a deal on Mara, and an information from Pips Mountain. And of course the 2020 MakerBox magnetic calendar, which you'll probably see over my shoulder in one more video before everything changes. This was a really cool MakerBox. I can't wait to dig into this all these different kinds of filament. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do our usual testing, which will be the bend test, the clip test, and of course we'll check the diameter variation on all these filaments, and then we'll get printing. We will start with the easiest to print with, where I don't have to trade out the sanded acrylic bed, and that'll most likely be the Firefly PLA glow in the dark. We'll move over to the GreenTEC black because I printed that on the acrylic sanded before, and then we'll more than likely mount up the heated bed for the PETG, and of course for the iron-filled PLA from our friends at Protopasta. So let's go ahead and move some cameras around, we'll get our testing done, and we'll start printing.
Many months later.
Yeah, several months later. We do have our prints out from this month's MakerBox. This is the January MakerBox, the Explorer series, so we get 4 filament samples. And something you may notice, there's no practical print or third print. I just felt that showing off the Cali Cat for calibration and then the rose twist vase for printability was good enough to show you guys samples of these filaments, because they are small samples and some people may take a little bit longer time to get your printer tuned up to use 4 different kinds of materials, using up some of the material. So I figured it'd be easier just to show these 2 objects and give you the specifications of my print settings, and hopefully that'll help you print yours better. So the first thing we tried was the Firefly, because I was super anxious to print. I love glow-in-the-dark filament, and this is glow-in-the-dark with little sparkles in it, so it was super, super cool. And I'll show some footage of it glowing at the end. But the situation that arose was it wasn't sticking to the build tack even with heat. It just kept curling up and popping up, and you can see I have a little pile of samples here. I can actually put the samples over here on the close-up camera. So you can see I did have 3 failures, I think it was, and it even got to the point where I couldn't even get the feet to stick down. So I peeled the build tack off the G-Max, and we're printing directly on the glass bed for all of the samples for today. So starting with the Firefly, let's get rid of the bad stuff. Once I installed the glass bed, or peeled off the build tack off the glass bed and went straight to printing on glass, which I've never done before, the very first print stuck perfectly, and it was the Cali Cat in the Firefly. And let's see if you guys can see that. And now we printed this. The specifications for this filament are 190 to 220. We printed ours at 210 with a 60-degree C bed, and we had cooling on in multiple stages like I normally do. I do have a hardened nozzle. It's a 0.5 millimeter nozzle, so I don't have to worry about any kind of filaments. I always have no problems with printability. So for me, this worked out perfectly, but I do advise you getting a hardened nozzle if you want to print with anything that has an additive material in it. So this printed out fine at 210 degrees at 60 C on the bed, and I reduced my print speeds down to 35 millimeters per second just to make sure I get a nice clean print, because some people may not want to print super fast. I understand there's a need to see things, but I know a lot of people like to print slow. The slower you go, the better print you'll get. So down to 35 millimeters per second, we had a perfect little Cali Cat. There was a little bit of curling in the corners, and you probably won't be able to see it, and there's a little bit of stringing, but I did some adjustments from 205 to 210 in the temperature, and I didn't change anything else, and I think this turned out really, really good. So after the Cali Cat, we always print out the rose twist vase, and that turned out amazing. I mean, it is perfect print. There are no issues. It came off the print bed with a perfectly smooth bottom. I love the way this filament prints. It's super cool. Now, let me remind you guys, this is Firefly PLA from Hello 3D, and their information, along with all the other manufacturers of filament, plus how you can subscribe to the MakerBox, will be down in the description. But this turned out great. I love the way this filament looks. It looks really cool glowing, which you'll see at the end. But I had enough filament here to probably print another sample. But because I had so much trouble printing the Cali Cat and getting it going, because I had to change so many different settings to get to this point, I figured it would be best just to keep on that same path, not using up all the filament, calibrating. Let's just get some prints out for you guys. So that's what I did. So I don't have enough here, I think, to print out another Cali Cat or anything else, but these other filaments, especially some of the GreenTEC and the iron-filled metal composite, I have enough to print out some other parts, but I decided against it, like I said earlier. So once we were done with the Firefly PLA, we moved on to this PETG translucent pink with sparkles from GreenTEC 3D. Now these guys are an excellent filament manufacturer. It's almost, I think all of their plastic is recycled. It's something, this is all recycled plastic, but I believe a lot of their stuff is. I have some samples of some of their filaments I'm gonna print with that they sent me just recently, really cool colors. So this was some really cool filament to get. I've been wanting to print with some of the GreenTEC products for a while now, and now that I have it, I'm super happy. This little Cali Cat turned out perfect. You can see there's just a little bit of stringing on his tail, and there was a little bit of corner curling, but that's only because the nozzle gets really hot, and on certain stages of the print, with this temperature range of 205 to 245, we settled on 220. So it was running really hot, and with PETG, you really don't want to get a lot of cooling on there, because that's going to cause it to curl up even more, because there's a small amount of shrinkage that happens with any kind of PLA or plastic printing and 3D printing. So you want to watch out for shrinkage, and curling happens if it's like a shock to the system, a shock to the plastic if it's cooled off too quickly, especially with PETG. So they clearly say on most packages, none or low cooling. For this particular, we had our fan at 10%. I mean, it was just a light breeze on it, and we were able to get a really good print. I'm really happy with the way this looks. It takes a little bit to see the sparkles, but they're there. So the Cali Cat turned out great. So of course we move on to the Rose Twist Vase, and that turned out amazing. I love the texture of this filament. It is super smooth. It's got a nice glossy finish to it. The bottom printed out really shiny. There was no layer separation or issues. This is printed in vase mode, so you're gonna get really good bonding if you have your settings dialed in perfectly. And of course, that just little bit of sparkle helps out. This is some really cool PETG. I am anxious to try some more filament from GreenTEC, but I had a lot of success with this. Those prints turned out great. It was time to move on to the next filament, which is the GreenTEC Black from Extruder. Now, I've printed with these filaments before in the past, and I really love the GreenTEC line of filaments. It's an interesting kind of filament. When it prints or when it purges, it kind of swells up coming out of the nozzle, which is I've never seen before, and I know other filaments do this, but it's just something minor I noticed during the purge cycle between switching colors. It prints at a 180 to 230C with 60C on the bed, and we used a lot of cooling as usual, our 3-stage cooling for the G-Max. But this filament printed out pretty easy. I didn't have any problems. Actually, this Cali Cat is super, super clean, and I am super happy with the way it looks. I love matte finish filaments of any kind, and matte finish black is really cool. It really just does not absorb any light at all. It's such a cool color, just matte black. I just love it. But this Cali Cat turned out great. There were no issues. Again, there's always a little bit of curling in these corners, a little bit of pillowing or tacoing or whatever you want to call it. But that's only because we're printing at 35 millimeters per second on this tiny little footprint, and it's a 220 degree nozzle. So even with a lot of cooling, you're gonna get it's a 3 perimeters on everything that the Cali Cat, so maybe if I'd only done 2 perimeters, it may not have curled that much, but this is the way I've been printing everything for a while, is 3 perimeters with that heat, and it just happens. You're gonna get some curling. So once the Cali Cat was printed and I loved the way it looked, obviously the Rose Twist Vase was gonna look amazing. And I don't even know if you can see this. This just might be a shadow in the camera, but this turned out awesome. On here, it's got more of a sheen to it. It's almost like a semi-matte. There's just a little bit of shine to it, and that may be the temperature settings, but this turned out awesome. It feels really sturdy. Of course, you got that nice, smooth, shiny bottom to it because we're printing directly on the glass now, but this turned out awesome. There's a little bit of something there at the top, but this filament prints out great. I didn't have any problems with it. So after that, it was time to move on to the iron-filled metal composite PLA from our friends at Protopasta. Now, this is some really cool filament. The temperature range is 190 to 210C with a bed temperature of room to 60. And of course, we use 60C for all of the prints that we did directly on the glass on the G-Max. And we ran this out at 205C. And it turned out spectacular. I was actually expecting to have some issues getting started with this particular filament because of the metal, but I have a hardened nozzle, so there was no problems. It's a 0.5 millimeter nozzle, as I mentioned before, so the filament just pours out. It's never been a problem with any of the different kinds of materials or filled materials I've used, and this was no exception. That turned out perfect. I really love the look of this filament. It's super dense. It's got a lot of weight to it. It really feels like you have something substantial in your hand. And of course, it's got metal in it, so it can be weathered. You can stick a magnet to this. I mean, it's a really fun filament to play with. A lot of possibilities, a lot of postabilities. So it was time to move on to the Rose Twist Vase, and of course that turned out amazing as well. It's got kind of a sheen to it, different from the Cali Cat. This, it feels like it's made of metal. This looks like it's made of metal. So this was just a phenomenal print. I'm super happy with the way this looks. Of course, we got the shiny bottom. There's a few missteps on that first layer because I think the nozzle was a little bit too close to the bed. But other than that, this turned out amazing. I really love the look of this. This is some fun filament to print with. I am definitely going to save this bit for projects down the road a little bit ways. But if I get my hands on a whole roll of this, I'll definitely do some really cool stuff with weathering and aging and see if it's conductive in any way too. But overall, all the samples in the January MakerBox were fun to print with. I didn't really have any problems except for getting started with the Firefly, but I think I just wore out my build tack a little bit too much. There was air bubbles in it and stuff. But the Firefly printed out perfectly. The PETG translucent pink with sparkles from GreenTEC 3D printed out perfectly. Obviously the GreenTEC black from Extruder, no problems printing that at all. And finally the iron-filled metal composite PLA from Protopasta. This was super fun to print with. Even though it's a composite, it's still got some metal in it. So overall, my opinion is this was an excellent selection of filaments from this month's MakerBox, which is the January MakerBox. This is the Explorer series, so you're going to get 4 filaments. Plus we got a little bag of Sweet Tarts candy, and we got a sticker from E3D and a discount on the Hemera hot end, which I don't know if it's good anymore, but it was a really fun MakerBox for January. I've got a couple more of these to show you guys in the next week or so stay tuned for a super MakerBox unboxing that's coming up really soon. And then there'll be a little bit of a break, but we'll be back with MakerBox in a couple of months. So if you're interested, you should subscribe to the MakerBox monthly subscription service for filaments and just pick out a level you like. I like the Explorer because it gives you 4, and that gives you a really good sample of some really cool filaments. And a huge shout out to MakerBox for sending this over to the channel for us to check out and review. Of course, we weren't compensated in any way. We just get to play with some really cool filaments. Well, that about wraps it up. I hope you guys found this episode interesting and informative. And if you're looking for ways to support the channel, check out the affiliate links and all the other ways you can support the channel down in the description. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share those videos, and I'll talk to you guys soon.